This was in on Catalina Island, which is off the coast of Los Angeles in California. And we took it. This was in the very early days shortly after I met her. We took a ferry over to Catalina Island, and she was like running around on the streets, and then she decided for some bizarre reason that she wanted to scurry up this kind of bank, like a hillside basically, and it was really steep, and so anyway, she started scurrying up this thing. She got about 5 feet up, and then of course she like slides all over. So she looked at me and she said, "You made me fall down." So on our long drives up to North Carolina over the years, which can be long and kind of boring, we'd get to the point where the 4 of us would start playing games, and we'd play 20 questions where you have to guess something. You can only answer yes or no. You got 20 questions to figure out the answer, and we'd play I Spy and things like that just to pass the time. And then Anne would sometimes tell what she called Jerry stories, which was stories about this giraffe that she made up. And then all the giraffes in these stories were called Jerry, by the way. So Jerry would have a friend whose name was Jerry, and his mom and dad were called Jerry. But then one day to kind of make it a little different, or to kick it up a notch or whatever, she said, "You know what? I'm going to tell you the pear story. I've never told you the pear story. This is a true story." So we're like, "Oh, okay, cool. We're going to hear something we haven't heard before. The pear story. All right. So tell us about the pear story." She said, "Well, when we were kids, we used to kind of live on a farm, and we would wait for the school bus at the end of the road, and we had a pear tree. And I used to eat a pear from the tree while I was waiting for the bus." And we're like, "Oh, okay, all right." And yes, go on. "Oh, well, that's it." I can tell you about the time that that Claire and Anne went to the airport to fly to visit relatives in getting a flight to Jacksonville, North Carolina, to go to Emerald Isle, only to find 2 hours later they were in Jacksonville, Florida.
So she wanted me to share this. She said, so when Anne was walking by me dancing, of course Anne would walk down the hall dancing, I said to her, "Drop it like it's hot."
Oh, I know that.
And she says, "Oh, I can drop it, I just can't pick it back up." So she said, her being herself, and this is the Colleen who was saying it, she says, "I tried it when I got home and I couldn't either. So I signed up for the gym the next day and made it my mission." So yeah, she went out to the Chill and Grill. So Delta had a Chill and Grill. So after 4 o'clock, you could go out after work and go have drinks and everything. So Anne, of course Anne, she went out to have drinks. She decided to come back in. And I am so sorry, I can't remember what she said to me. She said something to me. I think I was talking about, how I was looking at her. She goes, "Oh, I would do you in a heartbeat." And I looked at her and I was like, "And? No drinking."
Friday night when we all got there, she had the margaritas going, right, in the blender. And so thankfully I don't drink tequila. That's the only reason I'm the only one can attest that this is a true story. But I did not drink tequila, but everybody in the room was drinking margaritas and having a really good time. Anne's margaritas, that is correct. So they had Cointreau and the whole 9 yards, right? They weren't the cheap kind or the weak kind. There was all, So the next day, after a night of locking ourselves out of the cabin, trying to lift someone up on the balcony, when they heard a noise, Anne had gone to bed first, because somehow she gets to do that, gets everybody wasted and goes to bed first. But then literally we're trying to get in, because we locked ourselves out, and she's like, "God! I'm not ready yet." While we hear, true story, all this is true. And then we got back in the house. One of our other friends was showing off her brand new purple bra, fell on the ground. It was a really exciting evening for all of us. think I killed a muscle going woo during some carving. But the next morning we wake up and everybody is struggling. I mean, really not just a Thursday night with too many drinks. This is like struggle by struggling. And we look over and the entire bottle of tequila was gone. The entire bottle of Cointreau was gone. But there was 2/3 of the mixer bottle was still in the mixer bottle. So after about 4 rounds, she was just making tequila slushies with Cointreau.
This chandelier.
Oh no.
Ann came over to our house to have dinner the weekend before surgery. She brought these little wine markers that were men and women in like either bikinis or hula skirts. She hung them on the chandelier. They're still there. She was the most whimsical, magical lady I've ever known.
Cheers.
I have nothing but appreciation for the friendship that she gave her mom, and the friendship that she gave Mr. Smith, and was always so sweet. Nothing but love all the time. So yeah.
And we get right into Times Square, the middle of Times Square, and I grew up in Jersey City, so I know New York, but we tried to to make it faster. Ann and I were going to go over to the theater and try to get tickets, and she told Aunt Emma and Casey to go down to the tickets booth, and she just let them go. She gave them like $40 and told them, box down. And I'm like, Ann, I can't. My daughter just go to the tickets booth by herself. Oh, they'll be fine. We went to the beach. Last time I spent some time with her, we went to the beach for a week, and we would go into a bar, and it didn't matter where we went. Young guys, hot, good-looking guys, gravitate to Dan all the time. They all wanted to hang with her. They all wanted to party with her.
But I think that is what touches me so much about Ann, is that, we're not all that similar, but she's just so loving and welcoming and encouraging that it didn't matter. Like when we were on family vacation, I can remember asking her, I was having a struggle with one of my children. I don't even remember which one, and I don't even remember what the struggle was, but I was talking to her about it, and I was like, well, what do you think? Because Ann had raised 2 beautiful daughters who were grown. I bet you guys were 18-ish or so at the time. And she was like, why are you asking me? You're a great mother. Why would you ask me advice on that? And I was like, oh, thank you. That's so sweet. But I second the adventurous spirit. I do remember one kind of funny story when Ann was training. And she came down to the beach, and we said we were going to go on a run together. And they have such a great sense of direction. We got really lost, and we had to call somebody. Like, we're too far away, we can't make it back. Please come and get us.
This is my whole family that was talking. Emma and I grew up together. And when I was 7, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. A lot of y'all know that. And I remember going, I work at a summer camp for kids with type 1. And I remember going there and talking to other parents. And those parents would say, my child's been type 1 for 3 or 4 years, and they're thinking about going to their first overnight sleepover. And I don't know how to do that with my child, or how to trust them with another adult overnight. And that, as an adult, struck me as really strange, because that just never happened to me. And every single time I had that conversation, I had to think of Ann, because she did that. She did that. If she had a question, she called my parents. It was no big deal. I was always allowed at their house. I was always allowed to, just come as I am. And if she ever needed help, she would ask me. She really entrusted me with all of that, even as a young kid. And if she had another question, she would just ask my parents. And it was just, I was allowed to be myself around her, and she was allowed I was allowed to always be there and be around, and that just meant so much to me as a kid growing up.
But I can remember this funny story that we went to North Carolina, like, we were in school. I don't remember if it was Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Thanksgiving.
Okay. It was Thanksgiving, and I just remember Miss Ann saying, "Do not go cow tipping." And the whole time we were there, Claire and Emma were trying to get me to be the one, like, they won't see you. You're black. They won't see you. So she was like, I was like, but what if I get shot? And she was like, they won't see you. And literally they were explaining to me like how to tip the cow, never been cow tipping, never heard of it, like, but Miss Ann was not for the cow tipping. And I love and miss her so much, and I'm just grateful to be here today, so.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you.
Ann was just very, really colorful with her words.
That's a really nice way to say it.
That's a PC way of saying it. But it was fun. She was just vibrant. If you on our team, if Ann is in your queue, you have no work because she's taking it all. She's taking all your work from you. But she was just really, really fun. She started running and doing these races, and it was like, you want to start slow? And she's like, I am. And then she's like, hey, I'm training, and I bought a bike, and I'm swimming. And I'm like, you're doing a sprint triathlon, like, in no time. If you don't understand, it takes people a year or so to start developing these disciplines, and she was doing it in like 6 months. And that's just the way she was, just full of energy. She was a beam of light in our office, and she's truly missed, but she was that spirit that just leveled us all out, you know, no matter how bad things were in the office. She would come in and like, all right, here we go.
I grew up, Claire was my best friend growing up, and Ann was like a second mom to me. And I will never forget when we went kayaking. Oh no! So if you guys had the lovely, yes, if you guys had the lovely pleasure of having Taylor, the bartender downstairs, give you guys a cup, you'll see it says, "I'm not a strong swimmer." This is where that originated. So we were kayaking, and it was Claire and I, and Miss Ann and Mr. Tony, and they all knew I was a trained lifeguard. Didn't know it would come in handy later. But Mr. Tony capsizes in his kayak, loses a shoe, and we're sitting there, and I'm like, okay, Mr. Tony, get back on your board, you're good. And then Miss Ann goes, he can't swim, Jeannie! She says, SOS, save our Smiths. That's what SOS means, I don't know if y'all know. And I immediately looked at Claire, said, grab my kayak, hold on to this. In the effort of trying to save Mr. Tony, she capsized. So, what can I do but save our Smiths?
She did.
We all can raise a glass to Miss Ann because she kept a smile on her face amidst a almost near death experience.
In Asheville, Ann came up to visit, and it was me and my 2 cousins, Henry and John. Ann was in charge of the cocktails, and as a previous commenter mentioned, she was not always scrupulous when it came to the recipes, and we all ended up incredibly intoxicated that night. So Ann, when it came time to go to bed, she needed a little help getting to bed. So I gave her that help. She gets to bed, she lays back as seductively as possible with these thigh-high leather boots, and she sticks them up to me because she wants me to take them off. And I said, Ann, I'm your nephew. I know, but they're so hard to get off. So I take the boots off, and then I'm like, all right, you all good? Nighty-night? She's got these socks on. She lifts her foot. She said, can you get the socks too? I said, yeah, and I guess I can get the socks too. But She was great, loved her to death, always the life of the party, and it's been tough without her, but you know, just having her spirit live on has been really important to all of us. So.
We decided that we needed to celebrate Anne in the style and character that she deserved. And this is what she would have wanted. Her friends, her family, remembered who she is.
When I think about Anne, which I do a lot, as you can probably imagine, a lot. If I had to sum her up in one word, that's not easy to do. But I think that word, and it's been said tonight, but it would be love. And I don't just mean love of family, although that was definitely real and big in her life. And I mean love of friends. And I mean love of life. Love of adventure. Love of experiencing every day. I mean, when I think about the adventures that we had and the places we visited and the plans that we thought about that we, for when we retired, it's, she just loved it. She loved life. Into every time we crossed a state line, we would say, bottoms up. So between Atlanta and Raleigh, North Carolina, we would bottoms up once, twice, 3, 4 times, right? It broke up the journey, it made it more. but I just associate bottoms up with so many kind of fun times and so many trips and travels, and every time we went to a new state and so on. So as I propose a toast to Anne, I want you to think about her as a person and everything she meant to you. And I'd like to say to Anne, and I'd also like us to say, bottoms up. Wow. So